Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Hey, Kathy. Thanks for making it tonight. Hi, Devon. Hi, Yvette. Lovely to see familiar faces here. Hi, Pam. Great to see you. Open it all. Good. Yeah, I hope everybody found the replays if they needed them yesterday, either on Facebook or on YouTube. Oh, I had such a kerfuffle trying to get it to process and then download and then upload. So I was later getting it available to you than I had hoped, but I got there eventually. I got there eventually. Right, so here we are, day two. Do you know, I didn't ask yesterday, but it's always nice to know where everybody is. We're such an international bunch as writers that we are all over the world. Um, for those who are sort of newer to me and still getting to know me, I'm in Edinburgh, in Scotland, so I'm in the UK, but I know a lot of people are elsewhere. Oh, I see we had someone else from the UK. Let's have a wee look and see. From Spain, Simona's in Spain, Emma's in NYC, Diane's in Winchester, Patricia's in Avon, New York, Florida, oh, sunny there, not here. East Texas, oh, I'm guessing it's sunny there as well. Ontario, Yvette's in Ontario, so I'm guessing quite chilly there as well, like here. Desiree's in Texas and Colorado. Ramona, I've heard lovely things about Colorado, how beautiful it is. I'd like to visit one day. Devon's in the Hot Springs, South Dakota. Brooklyn, New York. Norfolk, New York, UK. I bet, yes, cold. Oh no, Texas is actually cold and rainy. Not what I was expecting. And Long Beach and Iowa getting ready for heavy snow. Yes, I've heard that. Yes. Oh, Chicagoland, the Windy City. Again, I'd like to go to Chicago, but I have to admit, it's just because I'm a huge fan of the Windy City. What's that movie? What's that film with Doris Day? Oh, someone will remember. Someone will let me know. But I love it. Costa Blanca. Oh, I'll bet. Yes, I'll bet the weather is gorgeous there. Yes. Oh, someone let me know what that movie is. What's that Doris Day movie with I love him. I think he could have been Rhett Butler. Um, oh, my mind's gone blank. That's going to bug me now. The Black Hills of Dakota. Oh, someone must know it. Someone must know it. Okay, musical. Not Pillow Talk, but same actress. Yes, I love Pillow Talk as well. Cool. All right, enough of that. Let's get on with today's session. So today is day two, and we're going to be looking at structure. So let me do what I need to do. Get the right screen. And then hit share. Right, yes, you should all be able to see that. And Devon's nodding, so that's fabulous. Great, so day two. So just a little reminder of what we're covering. So yesterday we were looking at fears that everybody has, no matter if you're just starting out or you are 10 years in. Everybody has the same fears, just at different levels. So today we're going to look at structuring your novel, then tomorrow about feedback, Thursday about editing your manuscripts, and then five, the all important, for most people, I have to say, not for everybody, but for most people, the paths to publication. Not everybody wants to publish widely, and in fact are doing it for fun and as a sort of something for the family. So, structuring your novel. I am a big fan of the three-act structure. It's the oldest, it's the most tried and tested, and all of the fancy structuring and outlining programs and books that you can buy, all of them fit into the three-act structure. The thing I love about it, I'm a pantser, is that it has freedom. So I can just know a few things that are going to help me get from A to B to C. So I have the freedom to kind of write as I go along. But equally, if you're a planner, you can be as loose with your planning or as detailed with your planning as you want to, as long as you know that you've got these certain things in place at the right place, then you are good to go. It will all work out well. So I'm a huge fan of this, and it's simple. And I'm all about keeping things simple. So let's take an overview of it. Act 1 is the setup. So this is where we're introducing our characters, the world, and what it is they want. So this is the normal world. This is your character's normal world. And it sort of seems really simple, doesn't it? When we talk about it, we think, well, I know what that is. That's okay. I can do that. But actually, in these first few chapters, you're trying to cram quite a lot in. And this is why we struggle so much with these opening scenes, often more than the end scenes, because we know that we've got to get a lot in to these scenes, and it's not always easy to do. So we're introducing them in their normal world, who they are, what they do, and crucially, what they want. This bit here, what they want. That is really, really important. Now, depending on the type of story you're writing, your character is either going to state it just out loud on the page, this is what I want. Or if it's a slightly softer story, it might be more gently done and alluded to rather than absolutely stated. But we do want it to be clear. Your character at the beginning does need to be clear about what it is they want in life. And whether they're going to get it or not, that's what we're going to discover over the course of the story. So it could simply be that they want to fall in love. It could be they want a divorce. It could be they want to be healthy. It could be they want a new job. It could be they want to go traveling. It could be they want to have a baby. It could be any number of things that they want. But your character needs to know that at the beginning. But up until now, they have not gotten that. They've not been able to achieve that thing that they want. So that's what we're trying to introduce. And actually, I interviewed somebody a few years ago, and she gave me a really top tip about introducing your characters and how to show them in these first few scenes and chapters. And she said, show them at home, show them at work, and show them at play. And these are the 3 main spheres of life. And so we want to show our character in each of these spheres if we can. So I definitely always try to go with work and with home. Not always at play, but you know, if I was writing a story about a young adult or a teen, or even a single person for whom social life is really, really important and a big part of their normal life, I would include it then. My characters tend to be married women of a certain age, so very much in the domestic sphere. So I always show them at home and whatever their work situation is. So I love that tip. I use that a lot. We want to establish the stakes and the themes. So if you're writing your first, maybe second book, the theme, I feel, isn't quite as important. I wouldn't stress too much about the theme at the beginning. That might emerge as you're writing the book. But when you're writing your first few books, I think holding the plot line together and the characters, I think that is enough on its own. And so themes can be something that you can be flexible with those. They are something that you can give thought to maybe in your third, fourth book. So if you're kind of stuck with theme, you don't really understand what theme is, I would say, don't worry about it. Let's just keep things simple. And that can be something as you're feeling more comfortable and confident in your writing, then you can come back to that. However, stakes, that is really important. That is very important. And that ties in very much to what your character wants. So your character wants something at the beginning of the book, but something is stopping them getting it. And that's what we're going to show through the book. But there's a reason it's important to them. There's a reason that they want this thing so badly. And if they don't get it, then something's going to happen. If they don't get it, they're going to lose something. And that's what's at stake. So it's got to be really important to them. In It doesn't have to be big action, you know, they don't have to, their life doesn't need to be at stake. But if it's a thriller or a crime or a spy novel, then maybe it is their life that's at stake. But if it's a more, say, domestic story, then perhaps it's a relationship that's at stake, either with a spouse or with a friend, a parent, a child, something like that. Or perhaps a job is at stake, or their health is at stake. Something is at stake that's important enough to them to pursue what it is they want. But they've not been pursuing it up until this point, because we know what life's like. As humans, we want to take the easy routes. Better the devil you know is a good phrase for this. We'll stick with something that isn't working and we don't particularly like, but it's easier to just stick with it than get the energy, the mind space, whatever is needed to make a change in life. We would often just rather stick with the way things are. And if you think about this in your own life, I was thinking about this earlier and I thought, you know what, writing a book actually fits into this. We are writers, all of us, we want to write a book. But if you're anything like me, you didn't do it for a long, long time. And you maybe still haven't finished that first draft yet. And so that is something that we want, but there's not been enough at stake yet to make us actually sit down and do it, put that time aside. It took me a long time to get to that point because it was hard work and I knew it was. So I put it off for a long, long time until what could be described as the inciting incident meant I hit a brick wall and I said, right, I'm going to do this. And for me, that was turning 40. That was the big thing. I'd reached a quite significant age and I was like, okay, this is my inciting incident. It's going to kick me into writing this book. So I'm sure you can think of an example in your own life where something has happened, you've hit a brick wall or something's happened to you and you've said, okay, I'm going to make that change. And it might be to find a new job. It might be to finally get the roof fixed or to get a new boiler put in or whatever it might be. There's something in your own life that you've put off and off and off until the inciting incident happens and you fix the boiler, you fix the roof, whatever it might be. And that is the bit that launches the story. This is what I kind of say, it kicks you into the plot line. Up until this inciting incident, we've just been setting things up. Your character's life has been going on as normal. But now, with the inciting incident, we are kicked into the actual plot line now. So that is Act 1. And then we move in, that's about 25%, approximately 25% of the book. So then we move into Act 2, confrontation, rising action. I have no doubt you know that you've seen this phrase a lot. You'll have seen graphs with the rising action and the line going up. This is as things get worse and worse and worse for your character as they pursue their goal, as they're trying to get what it is they want. Whether it be that new relationship, whether it be that new job, that new roof, that boiler, the baby, the health, whatever it is, they're trying to get to that thing that they want, but things keep going wrong. We have obstacles getting in the way, complications are getting worse. So every time your character takes a step that they think is a step forward, more often than not, it's actually going to create more of a problem. So they think they're doing the right thing, but it's made the situation worse. So now they've got another worse situation that they've got to try and make better. And this goes on and on and on until we get to that third act. Now, within that, to break up the intensity and give your reader a bit of a moment to take a breath, then, you know, say, for example, your character over the rising action, they make things worse in 3 consecutive ways. But finally, after that third one, they get it right. They solve a problem and it feels good. And they think life is going to be good again and that everything is okay. But then something else happens that they didn't foresee. There's a consequence to the action that they've taken, and it means they have to continue on and keep going in pursuit of what it is that they want. Now, within that, it's a very big one, isn't it? So the second act is about approximately 50%. So it's a big, big chunk of the book. It's what Jessica Brody calls the fun and games of the book. And I really like that phrase. Obstacles and complications aren't always the most inspiring terms, but the fun and games makes it sound like it's something to be enjoyed rather than something we've got to grind our way through this plot, but actually how we can have fun with it and challenge our characters and put them into difficult situations and make them do things they would not normally do. So within that big second act, we have the midpoint at obviously around the 50% mark. This represents a sort of big shift in the plot line. Either something really big happens and it escalates everything just so much more than we had anticipated, or it can mark a shift in the character's view of the world and what they want. It might come back to this. This might change by the midpoint. What they want is not what they thought they wanted. They now realize that they want something else. And so now they've got a new set of challenges as they pursue this new thing. And I'm going to give some examples of these in a little bit. But we do want to sort of make note of that midpoint and know that this is a point at which something big happens. James Scott Bell calls this the mirror moment as well. So this can be a point at which your character looks back on their actions up until now, their life up until now, and they kind of see themselves reflected and either change it, shift it and move on, or they might kind of recognize it but are still not ready to change, and so everything continues to get worse. But there's a nice moment in there, both plot and character wise, where you have a kind of moment of reflection or a moment of change, and things change. So then the third act, the final approximate 25%, we have a sort of resolution of things. Everything is building up to that big climactic scene between your protagonist and your antagonist, or if it's not a person, then that force of antagonism. So this confrontation between the antagonist and the protagonist has to happen on the page. It has to happen on the page. This is the moment that your reader has been waiting for, that the story has been building towards. So it cannot happen off stage, off the page, and then as a reader, we later are told about it secondhand. We have to see it on the page. This is the big exciting moment. So they have this big showdown, a big battle, and then it's resolved in one way or the other, and we hope it's going to resolve in favor of our protagonist. And then by the end, we hopefully see that there's been some kind of transformation in our protagonist as well. Something has ended this story nicely and in a way that feels, to use that very boring word, satisfactory, but we want it to feel good at the end. We want it to feel good. So that is the sort of general setup, the general top line of the 3-act structure. And every story that you read, every movie that you watch, you will see it fits into this, which is why I love it so much. It's so simple. Okay, so let's have a little look at some examples. A favorite one to use is the Hunger Games, because most people have either read the book or seen the movies. So Act 1, Katniss volunteers as tribute, and we're learning about her world and her stakes. So very clearly, actually, Suzanne Collins does this so well in the first chapter. We really do learn about her world, Katniss's world, and the stakes at play there, which, you know, it is their lives that are at stake, either through the games themselves or possible starvation, because they're all very poor. So, and then the inciting incident, as far as I'm concerned, is that moment when she volunteers, because that changes everything. She can't get out of it. She can't go back to the way things were. Even if she didn't volunteer, the fact that Primrose's name was pulled out the hat, that's going to change everything as well. So that for me really is the inciting incident. Act 2, the games begin. She's fighting to survive. She's having to make friends, which is not easy for her. She's quite a closed person. She's not the most, she's not always the most likable person, but she's having to learn to change and read the room and read people and help win to get people on side. Midpoint, Rue's death, which resonates for her so much because she's thinking of her sister, and that really sets things in motion. She's really angry now, and she's going to go on and she's going to win this games. And then at the end of this particular book, she's facing her final challenge, by defying the Capitol and kind of surviving that and not being put to death. It's not she's not defying, she's not having a face-to-face with President Snow yet, but it's the Capitol itself. She's got more battles to come, but it's a really nicely designed book that, nicely sort of plotted out and very, very clear. But very different is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. So Act 1, if you've seen any of the TV adaptations or you've read the book, we get these lovely setups of the Bennet's household and what's important in life, and it's finding a husband because they've got 5 daughters. And we get very, very clear personalities of all the girls there, as well as the parents. And so then the inciting incident really, I think, is when she does meet Mr. Darcy, and things have changed for her there. Yes, Bingley's moved into the hall and they all know about it, but I think actually it's when she meets Mr. Darcy that's when life changes for her personally. And then Act 2, we have all the fun and games with Elizabeth and Darcy as they clash and misunderstand each other. And so this is interesting. So the midpoint here is Darcy proposes to her, but she says no. But rather than that, escalating the tension, escalating escalating the stakes, if you like, or escalating the action, this causes her to reassess her values. So this is sort of a different midpoint, and she starts to see him in a different way and thinks that possibly she's been wrong about him. So a good midpoint moment here, and we see her behavior change accordingly as she's had this moment of reflection and a mirror moment and seen that she might not be right. And then obviously Act 3, they get together and they live happily ever after. We certainly hope they live happily ever after anyway. So that's the sort of plot line. We've looked at the plot, the actual storyline of the 3-act structure, but we also need to include the character. This is what people most enjoy about a book. Yes, they want to see some things happening, some action, some stakes, but also they want to get involved with your character. They want to feel something for your character as well. So I'm hoping you can see through the Act 1 and 2 and 3 here how that, as well as, say in Act 1, we're introducing the normal world of your character, we're also introducing them as an individual. And we ideally want them to be sympathetic. We want to feel something for them. We want to empathize with them in some way, even if we don't particularly like them. I'd say Katniss is a good example of that. We feel for the situation she's in, and she's trying to hold everything together. She is being the adult in the family, or her mother's not able to fulfill that role. But then we also see their internal flaws. And for Katniss, that is that she's very, very closed. For me, it feels like she's really shut herself off. For Elizabeth Bennet, then of course it is her prejudice against Darcy, really, that is the flaw that she's got. She's also pretty proud, isn't she? So we want to see what is the internal flaw of your character, and is it that, if you're writing romance, you'll hear it described as the wound. Is it something that they can't love? They can't open themselves up to love because they don't know how. They've not been taught how. They've been hurt in the past. They think love might get in the way of their career, or they feel that it will show a weakness in them that they don't want to show. So we want to see some kind of internal flaw. I think I certainly did in my early days think of their flaw as being that they're not a nice person, that they're an angry person, or they're a selfish person. But it's not that. They can still be a very gentle, kind, loving person. But maybe actually they're too gentle, too loving, too giving, and that's a bit of a flaw because it stops them looking after themselves, putting themselves first, and they're always doing it for somebody else. So the flaws really are the things that we all have, that we're perhaps not willing to take a risk on things, or we're not ready to compromise on things, or we're scared of falling in love in case we get hurt. Usually it comes down to feeling unsafe. It comes down to feeling unworthy of something. that they won't be loved if they act in a certain way. That's usually what the inner flaw at its core boils down to. Then in Act 2, as they're going through the fun and games, the plot line, as they're going through that rising action, then we want to see them address these internal flaws. We want to see them say, perhaps at the beginning, they dig out further into that internal flaw to protect themselves. But as the story goes on, then they start to ease up on it and they start to see that this might not be actually the best thing for them, that what it is that they want, they can't get because of their behavior towards other people or because of their behavior towards themselves. And so we want to start to see them shift that worldview, that view of themselves, and start to change the way that they see those around them and the world around them. And so then by Act 3, not only have they got through the plot line and achieved the thing they want, but they've had an internal shift and change as well. They've changed as a person in some way. They are perhaps more open to falling in love. They're perhaps not as career driven as they once were. Perhaps they've had problems forgiving people in the past, and now through the story that you've taken them on, they now understand that forgiveness is a big part of life. And if they forgive, it will set them free as well. So we want to see them go through some sort of transformation. Are they now a perfect person? No, of course not. And if you're writing a series, you can choose another flaw and they go through a new learning, a new transformation. But it's that emotional character transformation that is in conjunction with the plot line and the sort of action and what actually happens in the story. So they all move together seamlessly, and you can do that with the 3 acts. So tying theme to your character journey, again, I'll just emphasize, I think that if you're newer to writing, I'd say don't worry too much about this, but if you feel strongly about this, then the thing that you're trying to say about the world through your book, if you've got a story that really you do have a message that you're wanting to share, whether it's about forgiveness or it's about the environment or it's about politics or it's about any number of things, the theme is going to show itself through your character's development and transformation. And so there's a question there for you to sort of ponder on at some stage. How does the protagonist's journey reflect those deeper truths that you are looking to investigate with your story? So for example, Hunger Games is about sacrifice and defiance against oppression. Pride and Prejudice, love requires a bit of humility and a bit of self-awareness as well. So if you've got something to say, how can you incorporate that? How can you incorporate that theme into your character's arc as the story goes on? So yeah, so this is why I love the 3-act structure. It's a guide. It's like scaffolding that you have, that you hang the basic story on. It's not rigid. It's not a set of rules that you must do this. One of the things I've struggled with for Save the Cat, for example, is that she's very good at saying, okay, at this percent you want this beat, at this percent you want that beat. For me, that is just too formulaic. That is too rigid. I can't think like that. I can't write like that. So much as I appreciate a lot of what's said in Jessica's book, I find it very difficult to apply to my own stories. But if I'm using the 3-act structure, I've got an awareness of those beats in my head and I can figure out where I'm going to put them into my story. It gives you the flexibility to experiment with any subplots or pacing within the act. So it might be that you have 2 or 3 very fast-paced scenes together, or 2 or 3 important beats close together, and then you have a gentle little pace for a few scenes, and then you pace it up again. So you get to play around with that and be flexible with it. Pantsers, if you're a pantser like me, oh, this is just a dream, you know, beginning, middle, and end. Hopefully, maybe a few little moments that you know you want to appear through the book, and then you just go for it and join the dots as best you can. If you like more planning, you can put in as many of those additional beats and scenes as you want within the plan, but you're going to know that it's either going to be the 1st act, the second or the third. So it's giving you that structure. And this bottom one is one of the reasons I love being a pantser, but it allows your characters to surprise you. You get to have that scaffolding and then go in and have the fun and games and see where it takes you. I mean, one of my favorite things is when suddenly a character appears who you didn't know was going to play an important part in the book, or says something you didn't know they were going to say, and it surprises you, and it's part of that magic moment where you didn't know your brain was going to come up with that, and it's very exciting. So now we come to the hard bit. I'm going to ask you to do a 3-act story sketch, and you can either just have in mind the work in progress that you've got right now, or if you're more at the stage where you're just thinking about something, you've just got an idea, but you haven't really worked it up, this is a moment to get some ideas, start jotting something down. Now, notice the word sketch here. This isn't a plan, this isn't an outline, nothing is set in stone. We're here together, we've set this time aside, so this is a good moment just to focus your brain in on what could possibly happen in this story that you're thinking about. It might not come to anything, but these are just some ideas that you can think about. If you've got a work in progress at the moment, when you think about the plot line that you've got at the moment, can you see clearly where these points are in? Can you see if you've got your protagonist at home or at play or at work? Do you know what the stakes are? Have you identified that for your character yet? Do you know what it is that they want by the end of the book? And is it important enough that they will go through 350 pages to get it? Have you thought about the midpoint? Is there something that you have one already, but you didn't realize it was, and now you know you can move this to that midpoint? And do you have the confrontation between your antagonist and protagonist on the page? Very, very important. And have you got that resolution and the transformation? So you can see here, 3 to 5 sentences, 5 to 8, 3 to 5, not too taxing, but it'll just get the brain going, get some ideas going, and hopefully you'll walk away today with clarity for your existing projects or some really good ideas for a forthcoming project. So I make it 32 minutes, 33 minutes past the hour. So let's just go to 43 minutes and see what we come up with. Right, that's 10 minutes. Obviously, if you're in the throes of it, keep going. But if you've got what you need, that is super as well. Okay, so this is some ideas about what you could do if you wanted to just get clarity on it. I work with a critique partner, and maybe some of you do as well. And this is something you can kind of share with the sketch if you wanted to with your partner or small group, just to get feedback on it and feel that because what I've certainly found is that in my head, it makes perfect sense. I'm very clear on it, and I think I've got it all down. And then someone will ask me a question, I'll go, oh, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I haven't thought about that. And those questions can just kind of start me getting deeper and deeper into the story and understanding motivation better, as well as the sort of cause and effect side of things. So if you already have a critique partner or you're with a writing group, this is definitely something to go back to them with and ask for a bit of feedback on there. And I've got some sort of suggested questions you could ask them. But equally, if you're in the Facebook group, in the novel writing Facebook group, then put a post in there if you're looking for somebody that you can maybe share this with. There might be, if they're writing in the same genre as you, we've got over 100 writers in there. So I'm sure there'll be somebody who is writing in the same genre, and you can maybe ask them, does it make sense to you? Is the inciting incident clear enough? Does my midpoint feel good? And what do you think about the resolution? And of course, any other questions that you've got. So that's an option open to you as well if you'd like to get some feedback on that. So I hope that was useful. And it looks like a few people have found it helpful. Yay. Simona's got Simona's put in the chat. She's got a question. Maybe someone can help. I'm trying to write a prequel novella to give away. It's the story of the mother of the protagonist. And I need to end it when she's giving birth to the protagonist because she dies in childbirth. But I don't want readers to know that until they read book 1 of the trilogy. The premise is that the protagonist of the novella marries a vampire she's in love with, but he's only interested in creating a half-blood to access a powerful artifact. She needs to escape from him for the sake of the child. So if anybody is writing vampire stories, then Simona's got a fabulous sounding novella there. So that might be something to get some feedback on. And if you're either here, obviously it's fine, Simona. If you're in the Facebook group as well, then that will give people a chance to kind of have a think and maybe come back to you. Because if you're writing in that genre and you get these tropes and you get what's needed in that type of story, then there's nobody better to ask than somebody who does know that. Good. I'm glad some people have found this useful, and Anne saying she'll definitely use the Facebook group. Brilliant. Cool. So just a few final thoughts. Structure is 100% the backbone to your story. Really do use this as a guide to give you that roadmap. It's not a constraint. It's not there to kind of box you in. And if you find that your structure changes as you go along, as you get to know the story better, then that is fine as well. Don't see that as a failure. Don't think, oh, I should have worked all of this out ahead of time. Some people can do that, and they can write to that very tight outline that they've got. That's the way their brain works. The majority of us do not work in that kind of way. And so we'll have some great ideas and we'll work towards them. And then we get more great ideas and we shift and we alter things as we go along. So there's no right or wrong way to do it. I'm sure you've heard it before, but I don't know if we always hear it. But there is no right or wrong way. It's just feeling our way through and finding the way that the process that's right for us. Character arcs, so important. I know in our first books, we do tend to really focus on the plot. We want to have a really good plot line. But character arcs really just add that something lovely to our stories. You might have heard the phrase, people will open the book because of the plot, but they stay because of the character. It's the character that they are invested in. Outlining does kind of keep you staying more focused on what you're trying to do. And even if that is just the beginning, the middle, and the end, these 3 beats that you've got, and you can just work towards those in any which way you've got, that will just help you not go quite as off track as you might otherwise have done. And most importantly, to really understand in your body is that writing is iterative. It's all done in revision, and you'll speak to so many famous authors who are well published, and they understand that it's an iterative business, it's an iterative process. You get that first draft down, you understand some things in doing the draft, you realize that some things are not working, some characters are not working, you need to take some things out, you need to add some new things in. That is part of it. You know, if you're writing a crime story and it's only 3/4 of the way through, you realize you need to have a clue back in chapter 3. That's fine. Make a note of it. Finish writing, come back, you add that clue in the second round of revisions. That's how everybody does it. So writing is iterative, so important. A little reminder that I offer personalized help. I've got my 12-month mentorship where we meet every month so that you stay on track and get your first draft written. And if you've got, let's say, a second or third draft that you're wanting to have help with, then I also offer that manuscript evaluation, and you'll find all of the details there on my website, emmadesi.com. And just thank you very much for being here. It seems that a few people have got what they needed. That's good. Marlene is saying, I just attended a webinar on incorporating romance into a genre novel, and we'll be thinking on that when I check into the Facebook group later today after viewing the replay. Absolutely. Having a romance involved, a relationship involved, I think always adds a nice little something to a story. I always like that. You're so welcome, Anne, Emma, Josephine, everybody's welcome, and I look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow. Have a lovely rest of your day. I'll see you then.